Hello everybody, hope you're all doing fantastic today. So welcome to the second day of this week's reading week. And I did not go through this chapter like I said I was going to. I didn't have the brain capacity to do it yesterday after stream, and I had I was a little bit busy today, so I didn't have time or the want really to go through this chapter, so the one that I was thinking of possibly skipping, so I'll be going through it today. What my plan is to read it, and as soon as it annoys me, I skip the rest of it. Sounds like a plan, right? At least I hope so. Also, coffee. And also, water for hydration. And also, pillow, in case you guys were wondering what this thing is in the background. It is so I can prop up my leg. Because I have a little bit of an injury that requires me to prop up my leg from time to time. We will see how it goes with the reading camera on this side. Because I have to look this way, which means my chair is gonna turn, so hopefully it won't knock it. So. Also, I'm wearing a little bit more warmer clothes today, but my leg is not happy, which is unfortunate, but we shall press on. This shirt is not happy with this jersey. Well, it'll just have to make friends eventually. Alrighty folks, without further ado, let us get into it, right? But before we do, our quick prayer. Always important to give our thanks to the Lord and all that good stuff before we begin. So let us do a quick prayer and then continue on with the show. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day you blessed us with. Thank you for family, friends, and community. Lord, I pray you bless everyone who joins me here today or who watches the VOD. And Lord, we pray for healing over those who are currently struggling with their health. Lord, we pray that you bless them with your healing hand and strength. Bless them, their family and friends, and medical assistance with strength, endurance, and recovery, Lord, and wisdom. Lord, we pray for all the countries that's struggling with violence and turmoil in their streets. And we pray for protection over individuals and their friends and families. Lord, we pray that you keep them all safe, and should they find themselves in danger, we pray that you will guide them to safety, Lord. Lord, we pray for peace over these countries, and we also pray for peace in Israel. Lord, we pray that your shining light of peace shine not only on us, but on all the world. In Jesus' mighty name. We thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon us each day. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Mayor, hello, welcome in. You are just in time. How is you? Also, thank you for the lurky lurk. If you must lurk, you must lurk. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. I wonder if this music is still a bit loud. I'll put it on 15. Yeah, I think 15 is good. And then a sip of coffee. Okay. Let us see how this works out, shall we? There we go. Ah, yes, this one. Go. Good stuff. My head is itchy. Okay. So let us see. Hopefully there's not too much nonsense in this chapter. Alrighty, looks like we might be able to get this to work. Alrighty, chapter 51. The Spirit Spout. Days, weeks passed, and under easy sail, the ivory Pequod had slowly swept across for several cruising grounds that off the Azores, off the Cape de Verdes, on the Plate so-called, being off the mouth of the Rio de la Plata, and the Karl ground, an unstaked watery locality southerly from St. Helena. Right, so at least this chapter is part of the story. It was while gliding through these latter waters that one serene and moonlit night, when all the waves rolled like scrolls of silver, and by their soft, suffusing seethings made what seemed a silvery silence, not a solitude. On such a silent night a silvery jet was seen far in advance of the white bubbles of the bow. Lit up by the moon, it looked celestial, seemed some plumed and glittering god uprising from the sea. Fedallah first described this jet. For of these moonlit nights it was his wont to mount the main masthead, and stood a lookout there, with the same precision as if it had been day, and yet though herds of whales were seen by night, not one whaleman in 100 would venture a lowering for them. You may think with what emotions then the seamen beheld this old Oriental perched aloft at such unusual hours, his turban and the moon, companions in one sky. But when, after spending his uniform interval there for several successive nights, without uttering a single word, when after all this silence his unearthly voice was heard announcing that silvery, moonlit jet, every reclining mariner started to his feet as if some winged spirit had lighted in the rigging, and hailed the mortal crew. "There she blows!" Had the trump of judgment blown, they could not have quivered more. Yet still they felt no terror, rather pleasure. For though it was a most unwonted hour, yet so impressive was the cry, and so deliriously exciting, that almost every soul on board instinctively desired a lowering. Imagine having such a powerful voice. That's interesting. That new guy is he's an interesting character already. Walking the deck with quick, side-lunging strides, Ahab commanded the gallant sails and royals to be set, and every stunsail spread. The best man in the ship must take the helm. Then, with every masthead manned, the piled-up craft rolled down before the wind. The strange, upheaving, lifting tendency of the taffrail, breezing filling the hollows of so many sails, made the buoyant, hovering deck to feel like air beneath the feet, while still she rushed along, as if two antagonistic influences were struggling in her, one to mount direct to heaven, the other to drive yawningly to some horizontal goal. And had you watched Ahab's face that night, you would have thought that in him also two different things were warring. While his one live leg made lively echoes along the deck, every stroke of his dead limb sounded like a coffin tap. Life and death this old man walked, but though the ship so swiftly sped, and though from every eye like arrows the eager glances shot, yet the silvery jet was no more seen that night. Every sailor swore he saw it, but not a second time. This midnight spout had almost grown a forgotten thing, when some days after, lo! At the same silent hour, it was again announced. Again it was described by all, but upon making sail to overtake it, once more it disappeared as if it had never been. And so it served us. Data! Hello! Welcome in! How is you? Hope you are doing well. And so it served us night after night, till no one heeded it but to wonder at it. It's Bill's night. Aw, man. Mysteriously jetted into the clear moonlight or starlight, as the case might be, disappearing again for one whole day or 2 days or 3. And somehow seeming at every distinct repetition to be advancing still further and further in our van. The solitary jet seemed forever alluring us on. I might have to take a few more reading breaks this evening. Mainly for this shoulder here, because I've been putting all my weight on this here elbow. I already have a sore leg, I don't need a sore shoulder. Whew. The one and only Creepy Pro, hello, welcome in and thank you for the lurk. I appreciate it. God bless you too, good sir. So yeah, earlier today, right after dinner, we had one heck of a rainstorm here. Alrighty. Let us continue then, shall we? Okay. Nor with the immemorial superstition of their race, and in accordance with the preternaturalness, as it seemed, which in many things invested the Pequod, were there wanting some of the seamen who swore that whenever and wherever descried, at however remote times or in however far apart latitudes and longitudes, that unbearable spout was cast by one self-same whale, and that whale Moby Dick. For a time there reigned, too, a sense of peculiar dread at this flitting apparition, as if it were treacherously beckoning us on and on, in order that the monster might turn around upon us and rend us at last in the remotest and most savage seas. These temporary apprehensions, so vague but so awful, derived a wondrous potency from the contrasting serenity of the weather, in which, beneath all its blue blandness, some thought there lurked a devilish charm, as for days and days we voyaged along, through seas so warily, lonesomely mild, that all space in repugnance to our vengeful errand seemed vacating itself of life before our urn-like prow. Urn-like prow? Okay. But at last, when returning to the eastward, the Cape winds began howling around us, and we rose and fell upon the long, troubled seas that are there. When the ivory-tusked Pequod sharply bowed to the blast, and gored the dark waves in her madness, till like showers of silver chips the foam flakes flew over her bulwarks. When all this desolate vacuity of life went away, but gave place to sights more dismal than before. Close to our bows, strange forms in the water darted hither and thither before us, while thick in our rear flew the inscrutable sea ravens. And every morning, perched on our stays, rows of these birds were seen, and spite of our hootings, for a long time obstinately clung to the hemp, as though they deemed our ship some drifting uninhabited craft, a thing appointed to desolation, and therefore a fit roosting place for their homeless selves. And heaved, still unrestingly heaved the black sea, as if its vast tides were a conscience, and the great mundane soul were in anguish and remorse for the long sin and suffering it had bred. Cape of Good Hope do they call ye, rather Cape Tormentoso, as called of yore, for long allured by the perfidious silences that before had attended us, we found ourselves launched into its tormented sea, where guilty beings transformed into those fowls and these fish seemed condemned to swim on everlastingly without any haven in store, or beat that black air without any horizon, but calm, snow-white and unvarying, still directing its fountain of feathers to the sky, still beckoning us from before. The solitary jet would at times be descried. During all this blackness of the elements, Ahab, though assuming for the time the almost continual command of the drenched and dangerous deck, manifested the gloomiest reserve, and more seldom than ever addressed his mates. In tempestuous times like these, after everything above and aloft has been secured, nothing more can be done but passively to wait the issue of the gale. Then captain and crew become practically fatalists. So, with his ivory leg inserted into its accustomed hole, and with one hand firmly grasping a shroud, Ahab for hours and hours would stand gazing dead to windward, while an occasional squall of sleet or snow would all but conceal his very eyelashes together. Oh, congeal, not conceal. Congeal his very eyelashes together. Meantime, the crew, driven from the forward part of the ship by the perilous seas that burstingly broke over its bows, stood in a line along the bulwarks in the waist, and the better to guard against the leaping waves, each man had slipped himself into a sort of bowline secured to the rail, in which he swung as in a loosened belt. Few or no words were spoken, and the silent ship, as if manned by painted sailors in wax, day after day tore on through all the swift madness and gladness of the demoniac waves. By night the same muteness of humanity before the shrieks of the ocean prevailed. Still in silence the men swung in the bowlines, Still wordless, Ahab stood at the blast, stood up to the blast. Even when wearied nature seemed demanding repose, he would not seek that repose in his hammock. Never could Starbuck forget the old man's aspect, when one night going down into the cabin to mark how the barometer stood, he saw him with closed eyes sitting straight in his floor-screwed chair. The rain and half-melted sleet of the storm from which he had some time before emerged, still slowly dripping from the unremoved hat and coat. On the table beside him lay unrolled one of those charts of tides and currents which have previously been spoken of. His lantern swung from his tightly clenched hand. Though the body was erect, the head was thrown back so that the closed eyes were pointed towards the needle of the telltale that swung from a beam in the ceiling. Terrible old man, thought Starbuck with a shudder, sleeping in this gale. Still thou steadfastly eyest thy purpose. Here they have a little... I don't mind these small segments. The cabin compass is called the telltale, because without going to the compass at the helm, the captain, well below, can inform himself of the course of the ship. So they have a compass at the helm and in the cabin, which is actually kind of good and makes sense. Might put the channel on your laptop and play a game on your desktop, but it's not something you think I would enjoy because it's a bit colorful. I'm not too sure if I would like BioShock because it's kind of scary. Yeah, I have BioShock, as you know. I haven't played it yet, still. I've seen some gameplay of it. It doesn't look too scary though. At least nothing too ridiculous, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen, which isn't much, I'll admit. But it's fine, I guess. I still want to play it and see what it's like. Righty, our first chapter is down. When I got it, it came in like a pack. And I think I've got 3 of them. It's on Epic, right? Can't remember now. Let me have a look. I think, or is it Ubisoft? I think maybe it was Ubisoft. Yeah, the collection. Can't remember which platform it was on. I wish everything was just on one stinking platform. I was waiting for Epic to open. It's busy with an update. If it wants me to log in, I'm not gonna bother because I have to get my password book out, and that's blocked by the chair that's in front of it. Everything seems to be opening quite slowly. Seems like my internet service provider is having some issues. Yeah, Epic wants me to log in. I'm not gonna bother with that right now. Yeah, it's the collection. I've got infinite. At least I know that much. Yeah, you know I have it on one of the platforms, but can you remember which one? No. Well, that's not very helpful. And these things also take forever to open. Steam is where you had yours. I think I have mine on Epic. Oh, seriously, Ubisoft. No, buzz off. I am not going to dig out my book now. I really appreciate Steam. I really do. They don't want you to bloomin' log in after every 5 minutes. But I think it's on Epic because it's Epic that does all the, well, sometimes free games and stuff. So I think that's where I have it on Epic. But yeah, when I start playing it, I will definitely let you know, Data. And then I'll also let you know what I think of it. I'm still busy with that Cleared Hot game that you got me. Yeah, I don't know, because it depends, I guess, on the website I go to. But, whoops. Sometimes even normal web pages just take forever to open. Like, for example, sometimes when I open my email, sometimes that can also take forever. Other times, it's like really quick. What was it earlier today I opened? Heck, even sometimes Google, just getting it to load takes forever sometimes. Yeah, that cleared hot, yeah. And I've had fun with it so far. It's a very cool game, that one. Alrighty, let us see. Alright, so this is a short one. Yeah, I'm interested to see what they're gonna add to the game. I do like the dev's sense of humor, though. Your email hub bugs out in Windows 11, but it's fine on Windows 10. Go figure. Windows is a bit strange sometimes, yeah? I have a strange... I don't know if it's a performance bug or something, but every once in a while, like let's say I'm watching a YouTube video or even somebody's stream, both the sound and the visuals seem to get stuck and the sound digitizes. And it's very strange, and it lasts only a few seconds. And I suppose it depends on how... I'm pretty sure it's got to do with Windows. So I suppose it depends on how Windows feels. Sometimes it's every day I see it. Can be up to like... if it's bad, up to 5 times a day, but... for the most part now, it's like once a day, once every 2 days. But every time it happens, I keep wondering what the heck is causing it. Because just having outdated things as an explanation is not doing it for me, because I've got everything updated. So what the heck? What's going on? Don't understand this bug. I wish I can record it. It's happened a few times during stream as well, but I don't know if it reflects on your side. Clean my desktop? How do you mean, like clean off the dust? I've done that recently. Doesn't look like it's very dusty. Event log? I don't know where to find the event log. Not sure. I think I found it once and then I forgot where it is. Because I tried seeing if it reflects on the task manager, but it doesn't. Doesn't reflect anywhere. Yeah, I've run all the all the troubleshooting things. There's nothing. I've even run what's that system thing where it checks all the files? Nothing. It doesn't find anything. I've gone and checked and tried to manually update drivers and things, and they're all up to date. So it's a real mystery. I guess it's just gonna be one of those things that it's gonna bother me until I change operating systems. Because this happened when after my Windows 11 broke thanks to that one update, and I had to reload Windows using my old CD from when I got my PC. I have not recently optimized anything. This is a problem that comes from after that break. And after I've reinstalled Windows. It was fine at first up until the first update after the reinstall of Windows 11. Then it went away for a little bit when I got everything updated and stuff, but it gradually came back. And it just doesn't go away, no matter what I do. Hello, Jen! Welcome in, how is you? Any call out PC guys? They will just tell me the same thing. It's if I call them, they'll just ask me, did I update everything? I don't know. It's a very strange problem. Hey, let's go! Data caught the star. Nice. Hope you're doing well, Jane. Welcome in. Alrighty, let us continue with the reading of Moby Dick. There we go. Couldn't come on the name. Alrighty, let us continue. Chapter 52. The Albatross. Albatross! Monty Python. Alright, I'll stop right there. Otherwise I'm not gonna get anywhere. Okay. Southeastward from the Cape, off the distant Corsets, a good cruising ground for right whalemen, a sail loomed ahead, the Goney Albatross by name. As she slowly drew nigh, from my lofty perch at the foremast head, I had a good view of that sight, so remarkable to a tyro in the far ocean fisheries, a whaler at sea, and long absent from home. Run away! As if the waves had been fullers, this craft was bleached like the skeleton of a stranded walrus. All down her sides, this spectral appearance was traced with long channels of reddened rust, while all her spars and her rigging were like the thick branches of trees furred over with hoarfrost. Only her lower sails were set. A wild sight it was to see her long-bearded lookouts at these three mastheads. At those three mastheads. They seemed clad in the skins of beasts, so torn and depatched their raiment that had survived nearly 4 years of cruising. Standing in iron hoops nailed to the mast, they swayed and swung over a fathomless sea. And though, when the ship slowly glided closer under our stern, we 6 men in the air came so nigh to each other that we might almost have leaped from the mastheads of one ship to those of the other. Yet those forlorn-looking fishermen, mildly eyeing us as they passed, said not one word to our own lookouts, while the quarter-deck hail was being heard from below. "Ship ahoy! Have ye seen the white whale?" But as the strange captain, leaning over the pallid bulwarks, was in the act of putting his trumpet to his mouth, it somehow fell from his hand into the sea. And the wind now rising amain, he in vain strove to make himself heard without it. Meantime his ship was still increasing the distance between us, while in various silent ways the seamen of the Pequod were evincing their observance of this ominous incident at the first mere mention of the white whale's name to another ship. "Ooh, a nice sunfish, let's go." Ahab for a moment paused. It almost seemed as though he would have lowered a boat to board the stranger, had not the threatening wind forbade. But taking advantage of his windward position, he again seized his trumpet, and knowing by her aspect that the stranger vessel was a Nantucketer, and shortly bound home, he loudly hailed, "Ahoy there! This is the Pequod, bound round the world. Tell them to address all future letters to the Pacific Ocean, and this time 3 years. If I am not at home, tell them to address them to—" At that moment the 2 wakes were fairly crossed, and instantly then, in accordance with their singular ways, shoals of small harmless fish, that for some days before had been placidly swimming by our side, darted away, with what seemed shuddering fins, and ranged themselves fore and aft with the stranger's flanks. Though in the course of his continual voyagings Ahab must often before have noticed a similar sight, yet to any monomaniac man the veriest trifles capriciously carry meanings. "Swim away from me, do ye?" murmured Ahab, gazing over into the water. There seemed but little in the words, but the tone conveyed more of deep helpless sadness than the insane old man had ever before evinced. But turning to the steersman, who thus far had been holding the ship in the wind to diminish her headway, he cried out in his old lion voice, "Up helm, keep her off round the world." Round the world, there is much in that sound to inspire proud feelings. But where to does all that circumnavigation conduct? Only through numberless perils to the very point whence we started, where those that we left behind secure were all the time before us. Were this world an endless plain, and by sailing and eastward we could for ever reach new distances, and discover sights more sweet and strange than any Cyclades or islands of King Solomon, then there were promise in the voyage. But in pursuit of those far mysteries we dream of, or in tormented chase of the demon phantom that, some time or other, swims before all human hearts, while chasing such over this round globe, They either lead us on in barren mazes, or midway leave us whelmed. Alrighty. He never gave that guy the address. Anyway. Or the name. Addressed them too. And that is where it ended. Here we start again with all the yawning. And you can send a website address for the one you use. I do have a PC monitor somewhere on the computer, but I'm not exactly sure how to use it. And it's probably not even installed. I don't know. But yeah, send me that website address for the one you use. Whew. Use my yawning. But yeah, well, that is what happens when I read a lot. Some cool pictures that's coming up, that's for sure. We're almost at the halfway mark. I'm glad the chapters I'm reading today are not too big. Whoops. Although well, this next one, chapter 54, is quite a large chapter. Indeed, a very big chapter. Wow. That's a lot of pages for one chapter. Look at that. Just look at that. From page 259 to page 278. Right. So I'll be reading this one. And probably starting this one before the break. Alrighty. Hopefully I don't yawn too much. But here we go. Let us continue. Chapter 53. The Gam. I don't know what a gam is, but maybe... Christopher, hello! Welcome in, how is you? Hope you are doing well. Alrighty. The ostensible reason why Ahab did not go on board of the whaler we had spoken was this. The wind and sea betokened storms. But even had this not been the case, he would not after all perhaps have boarded her, judging by his subsequent conduct on similar occasions. If so, it had been that, by the process of hailing, he had obtained a negative answer to the question he put. For as it eventually turned out, he cared not to consort, even for 5 minutes, with any stranger captain, except he could contribute some of that information he so absorbingly sought. But all this might remain inadequately estimated, were not something said here of the peculiar usages of whaling vessels when meeting each other in foreign seas, and especially on a common cruising ground. Ah, you're doing very good. Ah, good, good. If two strangers crossing the Pine Barrens in New York State, or the equally desolate Salisbury Plain in England, if casually encountering each other in such inhospitable wilds, these twain, for the life of them, cannot well avoid a mutual salutation, and stopping for a moment to interchange the news, and perhaps sitting down for a while and resting in concert, then how much more natural that upon the illimitable, there we go. How much more natural that upon the illimitable Pine Barrens and Salisbury Plains of the sea, two whaling vessels descrying each other at the ends of the earth. These are very long sentences. Off Lone Fanning's Island or the faraway King's Mills. How much more natural, I say, that under such circumstances These ships should not only interchange hails, but come into still closer, more friendly and sociable contact. And especially would this seem to be a matter of course in the case of vessels owned in one seaport, and those captains, officers, and not a few of the men are personally known to each other, and consequently have all sorts of dear domestic things to talk about. For the long absent ship, the outward bounder perhaps has letters on board. Apologies if my shoulder is in the way of your readings along. I'll try to align it a little bit better. Here we go. The gam is defined by Ishmael as a former meeting between two whale ships on the open ocean. While merchant ships might exchange a quick wave or a shout through a megaphone, whalers are often at sea for 3 or 4 years. Treat these encounters with much more ceremony. Ah, thank you for that, Christopher. English language is not as articulate as it used to commonly be in most social sectors. Okay. Right, perhaps has letters on board. Cool. At any rate, she will be sure to let her have some papers of a date a year or 2 later than the last one on her blurred and thumb-worn files. And in return for that courtesy, the outward-bound ship would receive the latest whaling intelligence from the cruising ground to which she may be destined, a thing of the utmost importance to her. And in degree, all this will hold true concerning whaling vessels crossing each other's track on the cruising ground itself, even though they are equally long absent from home, for one of them may have received a transfer of letters from some third and now far remote vessel, and some of those letters may be for the people of the ship she now meets. Besides, they would exchange the whaling news and have an agreeable chat, for not only would they meet with all the sympathies of sailors, but likewise with all the peculiar congenialities arising from a common pursuit and mutually shared privations and perils. Nor would difference of country make very essential difference, that is, so long as both parties speak one language, as is the case with Americans and English, though to be sure from the small number of English whalers, such meetings do not very often occur, and when they do occur there is too apt to be a sort of shyness between them, for your Englishman is rather reserved, and your Yankee, he does not fancy that sort of thing in anybody but himself. Besides, the English whalers sometimes affect a kind of metropolitan superiority over the American whalers, regarding the long, lean Nantucketer, with his nondescript provincialisms, as a sort of sea peasant. Oh. You've started to attend a Bible school with people in your congregation. Oh, nice. 2 days a week until the end of June. That sounds actually kind of exciting. And fun. Ireland is just silly now. I'll take the silliness. Silliness can be fun. Unless it's a different kind of silliness. You want to move to Ireland because you're silly too? Nice. You got yourself some mussels! Christopher will be eating good tonight. Right so, lads. Pint. Dagnammit. Can't snooze the ads more. It's coming on the wrong times. Apologies, friends. There's going to be one in 3.5 minutes. Would be nice if I could snooze it for 10 minutes instead of just 5 minutes, because then I could have gotten it closer to the hour. But yeah, well, that's not possible right now. Yeah. There we go, sea peasant. But where the superiority in the English whaleman does really consist, it would be hard to say, seeing that the Yankees in one day collectively kill more whales than all the English, collectively, in 10 years. But this is a harmless little foible in the English whale hunters, which the Nantucketer does not take much to heart. Probably because he knows that he has a few foibles himself. So then, we see that of all ships separately sailing the sea, the whalers have most reason to be sociable, and they are so. Whereas some merchant ships crossing each other's wake in the mid-Atlantic will oftentimes pass on without so much as a single word of recognition, mutually cutting each other on the high seas, like a brace of dandies in Broadway, and all the time indulging, perhaps, in finical criticism upon each other's rig. As for men of war, when they chance to meet at sea, they first go through such a string of silly bowings and scrapings, such a ducking of ensigns, that there does not seem to be much right down hearty goodwill and brotherly love about it at all. I know. The time for the ads. Would it change if you stopped broadcasting? Yeah. The Slayer comes in, drops a exclamation fish in the chat and instantly gets a bike. And Christopher's just like begging for one, but gets everything but a bike. You don't want a tuna? But the tuna wants you! You're full. Fish can't ride bikes or drive tanks. Unless you want me to barf. I wonder if my auto mod would block the word barf. I am curious now. Alright, advert has started. 3 minutes. Pulasiki. Can I finish this chapter in 10 minutes? Can you barf or not, Automat? It seems you can. That's funny. Gives Automod a smelly fish. There we go. Any fish you don't want, you can give to Automod. You have my blessing to do so. No barfing needed. Just donate it to Automod. Automod generally don't do anything unless there's a silly word that it needs to stop. Has anyone seen the Panther of the Lake? What is your wisdom meme? I don't think I have seen that one, Slayer. Smelly fish mother. Eight minutes on the clock. Let me see if I can finish this chapter before my alarm goes off for break. As touching slave ships meeting, why they are in such a prodigious hurry. They run away from each other as soon as possible. Wow, okay. And as for pirates, when they chance to cross each other's crossbones, the first hail is, how many skulls? The same way that whalers hail, how many barrels? And that question once answered, pirates straightway steer apart, for they are infernal villains on both sides, and don't like to see overmuch of each other's villainous likenesses. But look at the godly, honest, unostentatious, hospitable, sociable, free and easy whaler. What does the whaler do when she meets another whaler in any sort of decent weather? She has a gam, a thing so utterly unknown to all other ships that they never heard of the name even, and if by chance they should hear of it, they only grin at it and repeat gamesome stuff about spouters and blubber boilers, and such like pretty exclamations. Why is it that all merchant seamen, and also all pirates and man-of-war's men and slave-ship sailors, cherish such a scornful feeling towards whale ships? This is a question it would be hard to answer, because in the case of pirates, say, I should like to know whether that profession of theirs has any peculiar glory about it. It sometimes ends in uncommon elevation, indeed, but only at the gallows, and besides, when a man is elevated in that odd fashion, he has no proper foundation for his superior altitude. Hence, I conclude that in boasting himself to be high lifted above a whaleman, in that assertion the pirate has no solid basis to stand on. But what is a gam? You might wear out your index finger running up and down the columns of dictionaries and never find the word. Dr. Johnson never attained to that erudition. Noah Webster's Ark does not hold it. Nevertheless, this same expressive word has now for many years been in constant use among some 15,000 true-born Yankees. Certainly, it needs a definition and should be incorporated into the lexicon. With that view, let me learnedly define it. Gam, noun, a social meeting of two or more whale ships, generally on a cruising ground, when after exchanging hails, they exchange visits by boat cruise, the two captains remaining for the time on board of one ship and the other two chief mates on the other. There is another little item about gamming which must not be forgotten here. All professions have their own little peculiarities of detail. So has the whale fishery. In a pirate, man-of-war, or slave ship, when the captain is rowed anywhere in his boat, he always sits in the stern sheets on a comfortable, sometimes cushioned seat there, and often steers himself with a pretty little milliner's tiller decorated with gay cords and ribbons. But the whaleboat has no seat astern, no sofa of that sort whatever, and no tiller at all. High times indeed, if whaling captains were wheeled about the water on casters like gouty old aldermen in patent chairs. And as for a tiller, the whaleboat never admits of any such effeminacy. And therefore is a gamming a complete boat's crew must leave the ship, and hence, as the boat's steerer or harpooner is of the number, that subordinate is the steersman upon the occasion, and the captain, having no place to sit in, is pulled off to his visit, all standing like a pine tree. And often you will notice that, being conscious of the eyes of the whole visible world resting on him from the sides of the two ships, this standing captain is all alive to the importance of sustaining his dignity by maintaining his legs. Nor is this any very easy matter, for in his rear is the immense projecting steering oar, hitting him now and then in the small of his back, the after oar reciprocating by wrapping his knees in front. And he is thus completely wedged before and behind, and can only expand himself sideways by settling down on his stretched legs. But a sudden, violent pitch of the boat will often go far to topple him, because length of foundation is nothing without corresponding breadth. Merely make a spread angle of two poles, and you cannot stand them up. Then again, it would never do in plain sight of the world's riveted eyes. It would never do, I say, for this straddling captain to be seen steadying himself at the slightest particle by catching a hold of anything with his hands. Indeed, as token of his entire buoyant self-command, he generally carries his hands in his trousers pockets. But perhaps being generally very large, heavy hands, he carries them there for ballast. Those birdies are really loud in the ear. Nevertheless, there have occurred instances, well authenticated ones too, where the captain has been known for an uncommonly critical moment or two, in a sudden squall, say, to seize hold of the nearest oarsman's hair and hold on there like grim death. So, basically, they're trying to show off how good they can balance themselves and keep themselves upright by having their hands in their pockets. That's hilarious. Throws Automod into a shark tank. See, it doesn't care. Yes, it's just tired, but for a different reason. Fun fact, it takes the universe 8 billion years to do a full rotation. That's interesting. I wonder how they calculated that. That's a slow carousel, yeah. Very slow. The universe is indeed massive. Break time! I might be back late because I'm paying my bills when my account updates. No worries, Data, no worries. Alrighty, folks, let us get our timers ready for 30 minutes on the clock. Christopher, I don't think that'll work out so well. He doesn't know what bills you have. Also, his currency is different. You have to try. Alrighty, folks, it is time for our break. So let us go and find ourselves something to eat and something to drink. And let me know what you had for munchies when we get back. And remember to stretch out them limbs so we don't have them atrophy on us. Maybe go for a walk too, so you don't end up with an injury like I do. like I have. And I shall see you guys after the break. Enjoy the break and enjoy your munchies, should you decide to have one. And of course something to drink as well. Let me know what you had. Enjoy the break, everybody. BRB.
Emotional damage.
Hellos everybody, welcome back. Alrighty. Ah, Christopher finally got his bike. Let's go. Hello, welcome in and thank you for the hydrate. Cheers. Welcome back to you too, Data. I forgot something in the kitchen. BRB. I'm just gonna mute myself. So, sideways chair stream. How was your break, guys? Cheers! I've got me some mint green tea. I had a leftover mince sandwich. And took some mince and I put it on a sandwich. Alrighty, since this chapter is so big, I think this is the chapter I will be ending on today. We shall see, though. Yeah. Probably. Especially with all the breaks I need to take in between. Bank is updating again, so I had to call the automated service number. Grrr. Oh no. That is no fun at all. No fun at all. Alrighty, let me just get my leg back up here. There we go. Alrighty. Let us continue our reading then, shall we? Shall we? Ah. Okay. Did you have something to eat while we were on break, or were you just trying to sort out banking things? And I still can't snooze these adverts. I thought it would have been regenerated by now. Yeah, that regeneration stories turns out to not be the case. Maybe I should just be glad that the number still works. Yeah, that could be something to be thankful for. Recharging varies. Either it recharges or it doesn't. If they have to make it where it varies, then it's broken. Then it doesn't work the way it should work. Anyways... Twitch, yeah. Indeed, Twitch be twitchy. Alrighty then. I think I'm gonna wait for the adverts before I read. It's annoying. The dog is going bananas again. Oh my goodness. Hey, Data, maybe you should befriend this dog. Maybe you can get it to go quiet. Is it like a bark where there is like something bothering it, or is it a bark because it's lonely? Because I do know that there are dogs that they either howl or they bark or make other noises if they find themselves alone. Especially dogs with separation anxiety. Don't worry, Data. I'm also not a dog person. However, if I can befriend it and get it to stay quiet, I would. But of course, in order to do that, you have to introduce yourself to the owner, and it's a lot of work involved. You know what? It's better just put a headphones on your head and crank up the volume, or go to the powerful TV of yours and just sit nice and close. Turn around and treat it like a radio. That also works. Yeah, nor am I. Not very chummy with them either. I have met them. I've met those people. They're fine, they're quiet. They're okay. These ones over here with the noisy children, they're fine and okay. The lady said she wanted to be friends with me. Still waiting on that one. But I suppose she's friendly if you talk to her. But they're fine. They're good people. And then there's the guy across the road. He's an interesting chap. Very, very friendly. And if he had his way, he would probably come over and hang out here. And he's actually kind of a really nice neighbor to have. He when my dad was here, when my parents were here, and he would drive off or something, sometimes he would press the button to close the gate twice by accident and then drive off, leaving the gate open. I think that happened twice. And every time Mr. Neighbor would, from across the road, would let me know. So it's good to at least have met your neighbors, because they can help you stay safe. Your old neighbors were always in your face. Like, aggressively? No houses across the road on my street. Cool. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a strange situation. I have a neighbor on that side, across the road, and on this side. And then we've got the big road over here, the main road in our area. So I don't have any neighbors there. My neighbors on that side, you have to go all the way around to reach them. And because they are so far, distance-wise, I don't actually see them as neighbors. I haven't met anyone from there. Because it's like a different world, essentially. It's like a whole different area. I have to say, this music that I clicked on now is pretty cool. The comment section is kind of cool. Here's one guy who says he's got like 2 characters talking in his chat or in his comment here. So the first guy says, "Hey dude, what kind of music do you listen to?" And then he says, "Me. White Bat Audio." It's so funny. This one's got a little bit of a Tron vibe to it, you know. Really like it. It's full of spunk. I think I'm a White Bat Audio fan. Methinks. I don't know if I am just yet, but I do enjoy his music. Very nice music. Your brother's gate code box used to give a massive shock on a moist day. Oh, exposed wire. That is very unsafe. Yeah, that's no good. Did he have metal buttons on that thing? Because, wow. I once did get shocked as well. but it was on on the frame of the gate, I think. Anyway, I never trusted that gate again. And I had a handy-dandy stick, my trusty old stick, that I had found on the other side of said gate after I managed to get through. And I used it on that gate ever since. Well, for the time being, while we were there, it was on holiday. There's nothing like a good old-fashioned shock to make you distrust inanimate objects. Righty. Let us carry on then, shall we? Chapter 54. The Town Ho's Story. As told at the Golden Inn. Ah, so it's a Golden Inn story. The Cape of Good Hope and all the watery region round about there is much like some noted four corners of a great highway, where you meet more travellers than in any other part. Seems like a seems like a famous place. It was not very long after speaking the Goni that another homeward-bound whaleman, the Town Ho, was encountered. She was manned almost wholly by Polynesians. In the short gam that ensued, she gave us strong news of Moby Dick. To some, the general interest in the white whale was now wildly heightened by a circumstance of the Town Ho's story, which seemed obscurely to involve with the white whale, or with the whale, a certain wondrous inverted visitation of one of those so-called judgments of God which at times are said to overtake some men. This latter circumstance, with its own particular accompaniments, forming what may be called the secret part of the tragedy about to be narrated, never reached the ears of Captain Ahab or his mates, for that secret part of the story was unknown to the captain of the Town Ho himself. It was the private property of 3 Confederate white seamen of that ship, one of whom, it seems, communicated it to Tashtigo with Romish injunctions of secrecy. But the following night Tashtigo rambled in his sleep and revealed so much of it in that way that when he was awakened he could not well withhold the rest. Nevertheless, so potent an influence did this thing have on those seamen in the Pequod who came to the full knowledge of it, and by such a strange delicacy, to call it so, were they governed in this matter, that they kept the secret among themselves, so that it never transpired abaft the Pequod's above the Pequod's mainmast. So where is this one that they are now referring to here? Oh, the Town Ho. Ancient whale cry upon first sighting a whale from a masthead, still used by whalemen in hunting the famous Galapagos terrapin. So the crew kept secrets from the captain. Interesting. Yeah, metal buttons, and he might have been joking because it was a high-end house complex with a gated entrance. He may have been joking. He may have actually gotten shocked. Only he would know. Interweaving in its proper place, this darker thread with the story is publicly narrated on the ship. The whole of this strange affair I now proceed to put on lasting record. Oh boy, here we go again. With this guy's record keeping. For my humor's sake, I shall preserve the style in which I once narrated it at Lima. To a lounging circle of my Spanish friends, one Saint's Eve, smoking upon the thick gilt tiled piazza of the Golden Inn. Of those fine cavaliers, the young dons Pedro and Sebastian were on the closer terms with me, and hence the internuding questions they occasionally put, and which are duly answered at the time. Some 2 years prior to my first learning the events which I am about rehearsing to you, gentlemen, the Town Ho, sperm whaler of Nantucket, was cruising in your Pacific here. Not very many days' sail eastward from the eaves of this good Golden Inn. She was somewhere to the northward of the line. One morning, upon handling the pumps according to daily usage, it was observed that she made more water in her hold than common. They supposed a swordfish had stabbed her, gentlemen. But the captain, having some unusual reason for believing that rare good luck awaited him in those latitudes, and therefore being very averse to quit them, and the leak not being then considered at all dangerous, though, indeed, they could not find it after searching the hold as low down as was possible in rather heavy weather, the ship still continued her cruisings, the mariners working at the pumps at wide and easy intervals, but no luck came. More days went by, and not only was the leak yet undiscovered, but it sensibly increased. So much so that now, taking some alarm, the captain, making all sail, stood away from the nearest harbour among the islands, there to have his hull hove out and repaired. Though no small passage was before her yet, and the commonest chance favoured, he did not at all fear that his ship would founder by the way, because his pumps were of the best, and being periodically relieved at them, those 36 men of his could easily keep the ship free. Never mind if the leak should double on her. In truth, well nigh the whole of this passage being attended by very prosperous breezes, the Town Ho had all but certainly arrived in perfect safety at her port without the occurrence of the least fatality, and it had not been for the brutal overbearing of Radney, the mate, a vineyarder, and the bitterly provoked vengeance of Steelkilt, a lakeman and desperado from Buffalo. Lakeman, Buffalo, pray what is a lakeman, and where is Buffalo? Said Don Sebastian, rising in his swinging mat of grass. On the eastern shore of our Lake Erie, Don, but I crave your courtesy, maybe you shall soon hear further of all that. Now, gentlemen, in square sails, brigs, and 3-masted ships, well nigh as large and stout as any that ever sailed out of your old Callao to far Manila, this lakeman, in the landlocked heart of our America, had yet been nurtured by all those agrarian freeboating impressions popularly connected with the open ocean. For in their interflowing aggregate, these grand freshwater seas of ours, Erie and Ontario and Huron and Superior and Michigan, possess an ocean-like expansiveness, with many of the ocean's noblest traits, with many of its rimmed varieties of races and of climes. They contain round archipelagos of romantic isles, even as the Polynesian waters do, in large part are shored by two great contrasting nations, as the Atlantic is. They furnish long maritime approaches to our numerous territorial colonies from the east. Dotted all round their banks here and there are frowned upon by batteries and by the goat-like craggy guns of lofty Mackinac. They have heard the fleet thunderings of naval victories. At intervals they yield their beaches to wild barbarians, whose red-painted faces flash from out their peltry wigwams. For leagues and leagues are flanked by ancient and unentered forests, where the gaunt pines stand like serried lines of kings in Gothic genealogies. Those same woods harboring wild Afric beasts of prey and silken creatures whose exported furs give robes to Tartar emperors. They mirror the paved capitals of Buffalo and Cleveland, as well as Winnebago villages. They float alike the full-rigged merchant ship, the armed cruiser of the state, the steamer, and the beach canoe. They are swept by borean and busmasting blasts are direful as any that lash the salted wave. They know what shipwrecks are, for out of sight of land, however inland, they have drowned full many a midnight ship with all its shrieking crew. Thus, gentlemen, though an inlander, Steelkilt was wild ocean born, and wild ocean nurtured, as much of an audacious mariner as any. And for Redney, though in his infancy he may have laid him down on the lone Nantucket beach, to nurse at his maternal sea. An orange discus, nice. Though in afterlife he had long followed our austere Atlantic and your contemplative Pacific, yet was he quite as vengeful and full of social quarrel as the backwoods seaman, fresh from the latitudes of buckhorn-handled bowie knives. Yet was this Nantucketer a man with some good-hearted traits, and this lakeman a mariner, who thought a sort of devil indeed, might yet by inflexible firmness, only tempered by that common decency of human recognition which is the meanest slave's right. Thus treated, this Steelkilt had long been retained harmless and docile. At all events, he had proved so thus far, but Radney was doomed and made mad. And Steelkilt, but gentlemen, you shall hear. It was not more than a day or two at the furthest, after pointing her prow for her inland haven, that the town hose leak seemed again increasing, but only so as to require an hour or more at the pumps every day. You must know that in a settled and civilized ocean like our Atlantic, for example, some skippers think little of pumping their whole way across it, though of a still sleepy night, should the officer of the deck happen to forget his duty in that respect, the probability would be that he and his shipmates would never again remember it, on account of all hands gently subsiding to the bottom. Nor in the solitary and savage seas far from you to the westward, gentlemen, is it altogether unusual for ships to keep clanging at their pump handles in full chorus, even for a voyage of considerable length. That is, if it lie along a tolerable accessible coast, or if any other reasonable retreat is afforded them. It is only when a leaky vessel is in some very out-of-the-way part of those waters, some really landless latitude, that her captain begins to feel a little anxious. Much this way had it been with the town hoe. So when her leak was found gaining once more, there was in truth some small concern manifested by several of her company, especially by Radney the mate. He commanded the upper sails to be well hoisted, sheeted home anew, and every way expanded to the breeze. Now this Radney, I suppose, was a little of a coward, and as little inclined to any sort of nervous apprehensiveness touching his own person as any fearless, unthinking creature on land or on sea that you can conveniently imagine, gentlemen. Therefore, when he betrayed his solicitude about the safety of the ship, some of the seamen declared that it was only on account of his being a part owner in her. Alright, so now they're blaming him. Poor guy. So when they were working at evening at the pumps, there was on his head no small gamesomeness slyly going on among them, as they stood with their feet continually overflowed by the rippling clear water. Clear as any mountain spring, gentlemen. That bubbling from the pumps ran across the deck and poured itself out in steady spouts at the lee scupper holes. Now, as you well know, it is not seldom the case in this conventional world of ours, watery or otherwise, that when a person placed in command over his fellow men finds one of them to be very significantly his superior in general pride of manhood, straightway against that man he conceives an unconquerable dislike and bitterness, and if he had a chance, he will pull down and pulverize that subaltern's tower, and make a little heap of dust of it. But this conceit of mine as it may, gentlemen, at all events, Steelkilt was a tall and noble animal with a head like a Roman, and a flowing golden beard like the tasselled housings of your last viceroy's snorting charger. And a brain and a heart and a soul in him, gentlemen, which had made Steelkilt Charlemagne, had he been born son to Charlemagne's father. But Radney the mate was ugly as a mule, yet as hardy, as stubborn, as malicious. He did not love Steelkilt, and Steelkilt knew it. Espying the mate drawing near as he was toiling at the pump with the rest, the lakeman affected not notice him, but unawed. but unawed, went on with his gay banterings. Aye, aye, my merry lads, it's a lively leak this. Hold a cannikin, one of ye, and let's have a taste. By the Lord, it's worth bottling. I tell you what, men, old Rad's investment must go for it. He had best cut away his part of the hull and tow it home. The fact is, boys, that swordfish only began the job. He's coming back again with a gang of ship carpenters, sawfish and filefish and what not, and the whole posse of them are now hard at work cutting and slashing at the bottom, making improvements, I suppose. If old Rad were here now, I'd tell him to jump overboard and scatter him. They're playing the devil with his estate. I can tell him. But he's a simple old soul, Rad, and a beauty too. Boys, they say the rest of his property is invested in looking-glasses. I wonder if he'd give a poor devil like me the model of his nose. And I need a break again. Oof. This is a very long story. At least it's not boring. And we're not going into the history and stuff like that of whaling and all that good stuff. Well, now this is interesting. Oh, okay, it's only on the chapter pages. So on the chapter where the new chapter begins, the number of the pages is over here. But when you read past it, the number of the pages are in the corner. Huh. You have to go to bed very soon, probably gonna have dreams about Moby Dick. That big white whale coming after you. I don't think you have anything to worry about, Data. You're not a whaleman, so it's all good, I guess. And we haven't even met the whale. We keep getting stories about it and accounts, but I don't know, this town hose story seems to be like a whole sidetrack. I know it's linked to the whale somehow, but what does the hole in the ship have anything to do with this whale? I suppose we'll find out. Ah, the poor whale. He didn't do nothing to ya. In fact, I think poor Moby Dick is misunderstood. Elusive whale. He's so sneaky, he's not even in the book. I know, right? I know, right? Nah, elusive white whale. Indeed. He be elusive. He's like a spy. You hear rumors of his existence, but no evidence. Mission Impossible. Tom? Yeah. Tom in whale form. Actually, no, not Tom. More like 007. James Bond. I think he's more like James Bond. And if I think Mission Impossible, I don't actually think of Tom. I think of the original Mission Impossible series. What's that character's name? Leonard Nimoy played him. Face. No, not Face. Face is from 18. I don't know, I can't remember his name. Yeah, Mr. Spockman. Ooh, James, haha, he's always got the girl. Yep, that's true. Now, what was that character's name now? And, he would make masks and things? That's more what I'm thinking of. Like, he can dress up and look like anybody, and you wouldn't even know it's him. Like, the masks in that TV series were so good. People didn't think it was Leonard Nimoy that were playing those roles, because those masks were really good. But it was him. I want to watch that now. Oof. Alrighty then. Let us continue this long chapter, shall we? Damn your eyes, what's that pump stopping for? Roared Radney, pretending not to have heard the sailors talk. Thunder away at it. Aye, aye, sir, said Steelkilt, merry as a cricket. Lively, boys, lively now. And with that the pump clanged like 50 fire engines. The men tossed their hats off to it, and ere long that peculiar grasping of the lungs was heard which denotes the fullest tension of life's utmost energies. Quitting the pump at last, with the rest of his band, the lakeman went forward all panting, and sat himself down on the windlass. his face fiery red, his eyes bloodshot, and wiping the profuse sweat from his brow. Now, what cozening fiend it was, gentlemen, that possessed Radney to meddle with such a man in that corporeally exasperated state, I know not. But so it happened. Intolerably striding along the deck, the mate commanded him to get a broom and sweep down the planks, and also a shovel, and remove some offensive matters consequent upon allowing a pig to run at large. Now, gentlemen, sweeping a ship's deck at sea is a piece of household work which in all times but raging gales is regularly attended to every evening. It has been known to be done in the case of ships actually foundering at the time. Such, gentlemen, is the inflexibility of sea usages and the instinctive love of neatness in seamen, some of whom would not willingly throw down without first washing their faces. But in all vessels, this broom busyness is the prescriptive province of the boys, if boys there be aboard. Besides, it was the stronger men in the town-ho that had been divided into gangs, taking turns at the pumps and being the most athletic seamen of them all. Steel-Kilt had been regularly assigned captain of one of the gangs. Consequently, he should have been freed from any trivial business not connected with truly nautical duties, such being the case with his comrades. I mention all these particulars so that you may understand exactly how this affair stood between the two men. That doesn't sound very nice. Wasn't Liam Neeson in a film like that? It was a pretty strange movie. I think so? I'm not sure though. Maybe he was. Darkman. I don't if that's a movie, I don't think I've seen it. It looks like a comic book movie. I have not seen this. This looks interesting though. 1990. I'm gonna have to check this out. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to check out this movie at some point. Hey Dida, did you know there were 3 of these movies? There's this one from 1990, then Darkman 2, The Return of Durant, and Darkman 3, Die Darkman Die. Arnold Vosloo was in the 1995 and 96 ones. Interesting. Huh. You didn't know about the third one? Yeah, there's a third one. That was interesting. Alrighty, back to the uneasy relationship between these 2 sailors, Steelkilt and Redney. Alright, but there was more than this. The order about the shovel was almost as plainly meant to sting and insult Steelkilt as though Redney had spat in his face. Any man who has gone sailor in a whale ship will understand this. And all this, and doubtless much more, the lake man fully comprehended when the mate uttered his command. But as he sat still for a moment, and as he steadfastly looked into the mate's malignant eye, and perceived the stacks of powder casks heaped up in him, and the slow match silently burning along towards them, as he instinctively saw all this, that strange forbearance and unwillingness to stir up the deeper passionateness in any already ireful being, a repugnance most felt, when felt at all, by really valiant men, even when aggrieved. This nameless phantom feeling, gentlemen, stole over Steelkilt. Is this his fancy way of saying Steelkilt was getting angry? Like, that's not a nameless emotion. That's not a nameless feeling. I mean, getting enraged. And that's not nameless at all. Therefore, in his ordinary tone, only a little broken by the bodily exhaustion he was temporarily in, he answered him, saying that sweeping the deck was not his business, and he would not do it. And then, without at all alluding to the shovel, he pointed to 3 lads as the customary sweepers, who, not being billeted at the pumps, had done little or nothing all day. To this Redney replied with an oath in a most domineering and outrageous manner, unconditionally reiterating his command. Meanwhile, advancing upon the still seated like man, with an unlifted cooper's club hammer which he had snatched from a cask near by. Heated and irritated as he was by this spasmodic toil at the pumps, for all his first nameless feeling of forbearance was For all his first nameless feeling of forbearance, the sweating steel-kilt could but ill brook this bearing in the mate, but somehow still smothering the conflagration within him. Without speaking, he remained doggedly rooted to his seat, till at last the incensed Radney shook the hammer within a few inches of his face, furiously commanding him to do his bidding. Steel-kilt rose and slowly retreating around the windlass, steadily followed by the mate with his menacing hammer, deliberately repeated his intention not to obey. Seeing, however, that his forbearance had not the slightest effect, by an awful and unspeakable intimation with his twisted hand, he warned off the foolish and infatuated man. But it was to no purpose, and in this way the two went once slowly round the windlass, when resolved at last no longer to retreat, bethinking him that he had now forborne as much as comported with his humour. The lakeman paused on the hatches, and thus spoke to the officer. "Mr. Radney, I will not obey you. Take that hammer away, or look to yourself." But the predestined mate, coming still closer to him, where the lakeman stood fixed, now shook the heavy hammer within an inch of his teeth. And it looks like this guy wants to attack him or something. I'm getting that feeling. If you choose to watch Darkman, you might be a bit overwhelmed or enjoy the experience. Didn't see the first effects, but I really liked FX too. Is that the name of the movie, FX? I feel we've spoken about this FX movie before. Oh no. Oh, well, it's been a while. I forgot about the plot of FX. So it's good to get get reminded. Oh, like I said, if we did talk about it, it's a long time ago. Only reason why I might even remember it is because I recognize the FX name. And only because it's such a strange name for a movie. Yeah, they've been working on it. They've done some sort of maintenance or something in the area. Because I do know there were people around me using the same service that's been having way more problems than I have. So, yeah. It seems good now. I don't think I'm gonna get through this. Today I'm not rushing through. That's mainly because I'm sitting in such an uncomfortable position. And I have to take frequent breaks. So I can twist myself back into proper order. Alrighty. So he's swinging this hammer close to his teeth. How many chapters are left? How many chapters are left? Does that answer your question? Let's see, do we have an index here in the front? Here we go. Okay, so this book has, let me see, what is the last chapter that is actually part of the story? Okay, so this book has 135 chapters. 615 pages. Okay, 603 pages for the story. We are now at chapter 54. So chapter 54 we are here. This is the first page. It's showing the chapters. So we are here. We still have all those to read. It's a lot of chapters. Are you posting VODs of the reading stream somewhere? Yes. I have not started, I haven't started uploading them yet because I've been trying to get up to date with the other videos, the other VODs of the games and so on. So, but yes, this week I am going to start sending it to YouTube. So if you put an exclamation point YouTube you should be able to get a link to my page. I would copy it and try and paste it, but the paste doesn't work from my mouse for some reason. Hasn't since I've gone to version 32.0.1 of OBS. Ah, you've subbed already. Oh, okay. But yeah, I will be making a playlist for Moby Dick, and you will see it there. There, just for your information, Slayer, there is a few chapters that I have skipped out of pure frustration. Not very big chapters, but they had, in my opinion, nothing to do with the story, so I skipped them. That was yesterday that I did that. So, but yeah, them VODs will be there soon. I've done that or thought about it for some books. Yeah, because this guy can go on to a tangent and I'm like, dude, what does this have to do with the price of eggs and the story? So, and also he gets into all these weird, like, theologies and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not interested. I don't want that. I want the story of Moby Dick. I've got this like sidetrack story of another ship that's come in contact with Moby Dick. I'm reading it because it's about Moby Dick and these guys are gonna encounter it. We haven't reached that part yet. However, when I looked through the chapter earlier, I did see the mention of Moby Dick in this chapter, which is the only reason why I'm still reading this chapter. This story. So, yes. I can get very complaining, as you have witnessed. And yeah, to minimize the complaints from me and the frustration, there will definitely be some chapters skipped. Now and in future. At least in this story. So, but yeah, these two guys that doesn't like each other so much, it's interesting, that's for sure. Is it about a whale? No. Well, not yet, at least. But yeah, let's carry on, shall we? I don't know if you were stuck in an advert and I've been babbling away. But anyway, for those who were, welcome back. Did you miss anything? Not much in particular. Alrighty, let's carry on, shall we? This is a very large chapter. Alright, so he's swinging this hammer close to his teeth now. Meanwhile, repeating a string of insufferable maledictions retreating not the thousandth part of an inch, stabbing him in the eye with the unflinching poniard of his glance. Steel-kilt, clenching his right hand behind him and creepingly drawing it back, told his prospector that if the hammer but grazed his cheek, he, Steel-kilt, would murder him. But, gentlemen, the fool had been branded for the slaughter by the gods. Immediately the hammer touched the cheek. The next instant the lower jaw of the mate was stove in his head. He fell on the hatch, spouting blood like a whale. Ere the cry could go aft, Steel-kilt was shaking one of the backstays leading far aloft to where two of his comrades were standing their mastheads. They were both cannelers. "Cannelers," cried Don Pedro. "We have seen many whale ships in our harbors, but never heard of your cannelers. Pardon, who and what are they?" "Cannelers, Don, are the boatmen belonging to our grand Erie Canal. You must have heard of it." "Nay, senor. Hereabouts is this dull, warm, most lazy and hereditary land. We know but little of your vigorous north." "Aye, well then, Don, refill my cup. Your chica's very fine, and ere proceeding further I will tell you what our cannelers are, for such information may throw sidelight upon my story." And here we go again with another explanation of who and what these people are. Fine then, let's carry on then, and hopefully we can get back to the battle at hand. For 360 miles, gentlemen, through the entire breadth of the state of New York, through numerous populous cities and most thriving villages, through long, dismal, uninhabited swamps and affluent cultivated fields, unrivaled for fertility by a billiard room and bar room, through the holy of holies of great forests, on Roman arches over Indian rivers, through sun and shade, by happy hearts or broken, flows the continual stream of Venetianly corrupt and often lawless life. There's your true Ashanti, gentlemen. There howl your pagans, where you ever find them, next door to you under the long-flung shadow and the snug, patronizing lee of churches. For by some curious fatality, as it is often noted of your metropolitan freebooters, that they ever encamp around the halls of justice, so sinners, gentlemen, must abound in holiest vicinities. So many times. I know! It's infuriating. "Is that a fair passing?" said Don Pedro, looking downwards into the crowded plaza with humorous concern. "Well, for our northern friend, Dame Isabella's Inquisition weighs in Lima," laughed Don Sebastian. "Proceed, senor." "A moment, pardon," cried another of the company. "In the name of all us Limmese, I but desire to express to you, Sir Sailor, that we have by no means overlooked your delicacy in not substituting present Lima for distant Venice in your corrupt comparison." "A golden crown! Let's go, Data! Nice!" Oh, do not bow and look surprised. You know the proverb of all along this coast, corrupt as Lima. It but bears out your saying too. Churches more plentiful than billiard tables, and forever open, and corrupt as Lima. So too Venice. I have been there, the holy city of the blessed evangelist Saint Mark. Saint Dominic purged your cup. Thanks. Here, I refill. Now you pour out again. Freely depicted in his own vocation, gentlemen, the canneller would make a fine dramatic hero. So abundantly and picturesquely wicked he is. A skateboard, nice! You can travel places. I missed something. Keep in mind that the only other thing to do besides read was dying of tuberculosis and cholera. Yeah, I suppose. But there was also farming and art, and there were many other things to do besides reading back in those days too. And of course, dying of illness. No PCs. Yeah, that's a sad thing. They didn't have PCs to keep them busy. The book was written in 1850s, and those were the deadliest diseases. That is true. Those are diseases that I don't wish on anybody. Not even my worst enemy. But thanks to medical advances and science, they figured out the causes of those and managed to reduce the outbreaks of both of those diseases. Thank goodness, because those are scary. They really are. Let me see. Alright, I am going to skip the rest of this page, because I'm tired of reading through this guy's explanation of who and what the canneller is and getting interrupted and blah de blah. So I shall continue on this page tomorrow. Let me mark the spot, shall I? That's interesting. This one is pink. And that one is orange, but on the camera they both come off as orange. Now what about on this camera? On that camera you can actually see it's pink. But on this one, it says it's orange. That's interesting. Okay, but since the lint is blue, we shall use the blue. So that is where we shall carry on tomorrow's reading. Yep, it was basically wash your hands, drain the water where the mosquitoes live, and good sewer systems. Indeed. Family lines were created and destroyed so very quickly. That is true too. A fish fillet burger. Nice one. You guys are really, really going ham in this pond today. So many tangents, it's infuriating. Come on now. Work with me. Here we go. Nice. Now you're hungry again? Alright. We are almost there. Oh, let's put it like so. We're almost there. Almost in the middle. Not quite. Ah, there we go. That's a better view. Almost in the middle. It's not quite 100% in the middle. But you could say we're in the middle of the book. I thought you threw it back. Ooh. You got a PC. Let's go. Nice. Very, very nice. Very, very nice indeed. Alrighty, let us see who we can read today. Hopefully tomorrow my leg is better and I don't have to sit so strange. A mackerel. Ooh, Slayer's gonna eat well tonight. All the fishing you guys have been doing, you guys are going to be well fed, that's for sure. Alrighty, let us go over to the chat screen. Well, we'll wait for the... We'll first do the star. Everybody try catch that star! Oh man! It disappeared on ya! Much sad, much sad. Alrighty, folks. I already had a whatchamacallit, a target in mind even before I started streaming. I decided if he was still alive, I would raid him. However, I'm having second thoughts now. I'm seeing someone else live. Oh, I've seen her name. Alrighty, sure. Let me check her out. I've seen her name, but I haven't seen her stream. She's playing Amber Island. Oh yeah, we are definitely gonna raid her. Fancy some more Armor of Faith if she's on. I don't see her. Oh no, wait, there she is. She's playing Mouse PI for hire. I can give her a shouty for those who want to go visit her, but we already have a target. And that is Mama of 3 Dinos. Yeah, she's playing Amber Island. Am I buffering? Why am I buffering? I am not allowed to be buffering. How dare I be buffering? It's probably because I'm watching Mama of 3 Dinos' stream. Let me just get my keyboard. It's so convenient and nice that I decided to make a space for the book here. I don't have to get up and go over that way. But yeah, we'll give a an honorable mention shout out to Armor of Faith. There she is. She's pretty chill. If anybody wants to go check her out, feel free to do so. She's awesome. She's chill, very friendly, very nice. And as for our raid target, let me give her a shouty. Yep. Here we go. We go. Very family friendly, yes. And it seems also that Mama of 3 Dinos is also family friendly. So there we go. 2 channels that are family friendly right at your fingertips in the chat. Nice. Nice indeed. Here is the raid message. Give that a sneaky little copy. And I shall do the same. And thank you all for joining me in today's very slow reading of Moby Dick. I didn't cover very many chapters today. You don't think you've seen her? You'll check her out later? Nice. You won't regret it. She's very nice. Armor of Faith is very, very cool. She sometimes crochets live on stream. I think, if I remember correctly, she's got a redeem or some way, something in her chat, where you can like order a plushie from her, and she will, if you want, crochet the plushie live on stream. She's very cool. Can't stay up much longer because my shopping is coming later. Alrighty, Data. That's cool, that's cool. Thank you again, everybody, for joining me in today's Slow reading. Hopefully tomorrow my leg will be much better and I don't need to sit in such an awkward position. But I'm glad to see it works, so if it's needed, I will probably have to do that again. Probably will. So, yeah. Do keep me in your prayers for healing of this leg vein problem. So, yeah. Due to inactivity this weekend that I'm sitting with this injury. So, yeah. Strap up your leg. Yeah, I do that. Well, not with a strap, but with a chair. I mean, this is what this pillow is. It's on top of a chair. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. So, yes, I will indeed appreciate any prayers of healing. Because when I wake up in the morning, that leg is stiff, and it does not want me to use it. And it hurts. But yes, have a good one, everybody. God bless. Let's go show some love to Mama of 3 Dinos. For a minute, I thought you were saying lag, not leg. It's probably because of my strange accent and my tired tongue because of, reading that guy's tangents. Alright. Anyway, don't get me started on that. God message is reported as sent. Thank you, Data. Have a good one, everybody. May you have a wonderful rest of your day, morning, afternoon, evening, whichever time it may be. May it be a pain-free experience. God bless. Love you all. See you all tomorrow. Let's go show some loves to Mama of 3 Dinos. See y'all later to Sir Slayer. Take care of yourselves, everybody. And I hope to see you tomorrow to witness some more of my frustration. Good night. Bye-bye.